Before we begin looking at authoring and publishing custom content to the Content Center, let's take a quick look at the Content Center itself and just get familiar with the layout. In Inventor, if you do not have a file open, the Content Center editor is found on the Tools ribbon. If you do have a file open, you'll find this under the Manage tab on the ribbon. So let's open the editor. As you can see, it's broken down into categories, and underneath each category there are subcategories, and underneath those subcategories would be the families, if there are any available. Let's look at the merged view so that we can see both the read-only libraries and the read-write library that's been created for this vault. You can see the families here are shown as sort of a grayed out look to them. That shows you that these are read-only libraries. And in order to verify that, if we go to my custom content library, you see they go away. So let's go back to the merged view. Merged view will show you both. Along the top of the ribbon, we have a back and forward menu that allows you to jump back and forth between the screens that you've already viewed, or to move up one folder. This will take me back up to the subfolders. There is a search feature that will allow you to put in any search string that you would like, or let me just squeeze this over a little bit here. If you want to look at the advanced search, you can put in search criteria for families or members, specify which category you want to search, and also put in various parameters or conditions to narrow the search down to exactly what you're looking for. Along the top also next to the search is your favorites. If you have favorite families or categories, you can set those to favorites and they will show up at the bottom of the screen here when those are turned on. The filters are very important, and I find that I use these quite a bit to narrow what I'm looking at. The Content Center can get quite large, and sometimes you just need to narrow down what you're seeing in it. So in here we have filters that are already set up out of the box by the various standards that come with the Content Center. You can add or edit these filters by selecting exactly what you want to see, what standards for each different filter that's in there. You can specify only certain categories that are associated with each filter, and you can even create your own custom filters that make up a combination of all of these different things. So the filters are very good for narrowing down what you're seeing on the screen, especially if you're using the same families over and over. You don't need to see those that you're not going to use. Next to that, we have the refresh button, which just refreshes what's on the screen in case any changes were made. We have the add category, which will only show up if you're in your custom content. Now I could add a custom category to any one of these families that we're looking at here, any one of the main categories. Category properties allows you to change the information associated with a specific category and or change the image. You can also remap any properties that need to be remapped. If we were in a specific category, if I had one highlighted, we can delete categories. We can also look at family properties if we have a family open. So I'm going to get to a family, look at the merged view again, select a family, and now the family properties opens up. This allows you to change the information associated with this specific family. You can change the standard name, you can change the standard organization, you can change the name of the family and the family description, remap any parameters, change the thumbnail if you have one, and or modify any links to other families. In this case, this particular one has no links. The family table itself opens that family. Now if this were a read-write family, this would be open for editing. As it is, I will not be able to make any changes to this. This is a read-only family. But this is where you would modify the specific information for the family itself, and it's very similar to what's in an IPART table. You can change all of the information in these categories. The blue designates a category or a column that is a combination of other properties. You cannot change the blue values. You have to find out what what expression this column is made up of, and then change those columns accordingly. So let's look at variety, column properties, and you can see that this is an expression made up of all of these different variables. To change what's in that column, you can either change the expression itself or change the data in the columns that make up that expression. You can add columns, you can remove columns if they are not important to what you're doing. You can add expressions, you can map columns to iProperties, map to Inventor property. So if you want the contents of one particular column to be pushed out to, for example, part number, you could map that to the Inventor property part number. So next along would be the delete family. Since this is a read-only family, I'm not seeing any delete. There's no option to delete. If I go into my custom and go to tube and pipe, I know I have a fitting here in the elbows family. I could then delete that family. The button lights up at that point. I'm not going to do that. You can copy a family to a different library. If I had another read-write library, that would show up in this menu here. I do not have another read-write library, but if I go back to merged view, if I go to a family that is read-only, I can copy that to my custom library. That allows me then to edit it any way that I want to. Once it's in a read-write library, I can do whatever I need to with that family. Excuse me. You can also save copy as. That does pretty close to the same thing as copy to. The material guide is a good way to copy or add materials to a family. If you use this tool, you can either add materials to an existing table. It will copy the contents of that table to a secondary group within the existing table, only using a different material. You can also copy the whole family out to a new library, a new family, using that new material. I prefer to do it the second way, so that I keep my materials in separate families. It just makes the tables a little bit more manageable. And then along the end here are just different viewing options. You can view your families as thumbnails, as a list, with details, a lot like Windows. You can turn on and off the pane on the left, and you can turn on and off the preview window at the bottom. So there's your quick down and dirty overview of the Content Center editor itself. And now that we kind of know where everything is and a little bit about what it does, let's take a look at actually filling this Content Center up with our own custom content.